So if you ask Oilers fans what the biggest problem on the team is right now, yes, you'll get a few different answers. Some will say depth scoring, some will say goaltending, but a large contingency of Oilers fans will say the defense, and in specific, Darnell Nurse. Now, Nurse is not a bad defenseman. Like, he's not a bad NHL player or even a bad D-man. He's just suffering from Dion Phaneuf syndrome, where he got paid a ton of money on his contract and expected to be a number one defenseman when he's just not that. So obviously, the more top D-man matchups, time on ice, and responsibilities that you give him, he's gonna look worse because he's not a number one defenseman. I think in an ideal world, Darnell Nurse would be a great number 3 defenseman. Just like Phaneuf would have been with the Leafs, and he ended up being with the Ottawa Senators on their 2017 playoff run behind Karlsson and Methot. But obviously it's Edmonton, a Canadian market, so if there's a ton of blame going to Darnell Nurse, he's gonna hear it. And he talked about it recently on Luke Gazdik's Mitts Off podcast. That's a great new pod, by the way. Go and check it out if you haven't already. And I want to make sure this has some context with it, not just a quote out of nowhere. Obviously this is two buddies who played together in Edmonton. They're clearly very good friends and they've hung out for years. It's a pretty chill podcast summer setting. But still, the fact that Darnell felt the need to say this is pretty telling, and it shows you the kind of pressure that he feels on his shoulders. Quote, "I feel like I've been blamed for everything from a goal against to the traffic on the Stony Plain." End quote, which to me, I don't know about you guys, I see a guy who feels like he's being unfairly blamed for a lot more things that are not just his fault. And to be honest with you, I see both sides. On the one side, I mean, Darnell, you're playing in not just a Canadian market, maybe the most intense Canadian market outside of Montreal and Toronto. And honestly, Edmonton matches up in terms of passion and intensity at sometimes with those two markets. That city would take a bullet for their Oilers. And it's not like they can just, oh, it's okay, we got the Elks. Let's go cheer on the Elks. Yay. In Edmonton, there's hockey season and the off season. But on the other side of things, again, like I said, Darnell is not a bad defenseman. He's not a bad NHL player. People who say that are blowing it out of proportion there, and he does get unfairly blamed for a lot of stuff that isn't all his fault. Like, I don't think people realize how hard it is to have to deal with number one D-man matchups and responsibilities and be expected to go and put up points. And some people will say, well, he shouldn't have signed for $9 million then. Come on. I hate that so much, because how many of you would turn down a $9.25 million annual contract just because, oh, you know what, I'm not good enough for that money, I'm not going to take it. Like, that is just so hypocritical. But even in a jokey setting with his buddy Luke Gazdic, you could see when you say something like that it definitely gets to you a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading in between the lines a bit, but clearly he sees it and he must feel it a little bit. Let me know what you think in the comments down below about this. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.